Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. For over 150 years, ours has been a church of open minds and loving hearts, celebrating many sources of wisdom, many spiritual paths, and many identities. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, and your hopes are welcome here. I am here in our sanctuary, which is empty only of unnecessary risk. We record separately, some from here, some from home. So I'm here for you, to bring you back into this space which so many of us miss, knowing that our church extends far beyond these walls. Your faces are still here in this room, posted on the chairs and the walls, so you are here. And as we're looking around the room while we record, we're looking at not an empty space, but a space filled with your presence, even in your absence. Our doors are closed because our hearts are open, living our values of care and compassion. We invite you to celebrate our annual flower communion, which is coming up June 7th. Send us your pictures of your lovely faces with flowers, whether they're real flowers from your yard or garden or along the roadside, dandelions, whatever, or drawn flowers by crayon in your house or a favorite picture of flowers. Send a picture. You can find it in your e-news where to send those to be part of a picture collage. And also we invite you to participate with a special flower altar bouquet that will be outside. So this coming Wednesday, during most of the day or Thursday morning, you can come by the main doors of the church. There will be a table out there along with vases from our old Universalist church where you can drop off flowers. Come anytime, Wednesday or Thursday morning. And then those flowers will be part of our service on Sunday. So you can see more in your e-news. If you have questions about that, contact the staff. We will be there to greet you as well from a distance, and it'll be good to be together and find a way to celebrate that annual tradition. And a special thank you to Jay Smith for stepping up this week to help put together the video for service recording, and to all the participants, recording from here or from home with music, story, reflections. We're so grateful for all that you're doing. And finally, in the words of the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes, minister of this church in the 1870s, may our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together.
This is the Unitarian Universalist Church. This is the Church of the Flaming Chalice. This is the Church of the Open Mind. This is the Church of the Loving Heart, where friends come together and share.
Stayed home, and the people read books, and the people listened deep within their souls, and in that stillness lay a quieter song that had always ever been there all along. And in this time alone, as we go within, let us see new ways, and not how it's always been. It's surely not the same. Maybe less is more of the stillness that this earth is crying for. And the people stayed home, and they danced and sang, as they met their shadows on a different day. They began to see past the fear and loss towards connectedness that isn't based on cost. And in this time alone, as we go within, let us see new ways and not how it's always been. It's surely not the same, for maybe less is more of the stillness that this earth is crying for. When the danger passed and they joined again, they began to seek intention and healed within. And the earth began to heal. She began to breathe, and she sighed relief that the people healed their ways. People stayed home. They just stayed home.
The theme for today is Mind the Gap, how to sustain ourselves and find endurance for the long haul. However, I don't want to talk about the long haul. I want to talk about the right now. I want to talk about my anger and the sadness I feel at the killing of George Floyd by members of the Minneapolis Police Department. How could this happen again? Why is it that so often our black friends and neighbors have to hear about how one of their own was once again murdered in broad daylight by those who were supposed to keep us safe in our communities? Why is it our friends with black children are afraid for their child's life every time he or she leaves their home? I know we need to talk about the long haul. Still, I want to talk about the right now. I want to walk into the Minneapolis Police Chief's office and ask him to tell me why one of his officers felt putting his knee on George Floyd was necessary even after he was in custody, and why the other officers either didn't notice or didn't care how one of their own was killing another human being. I want to challenge those who criticize the Black Lives Matter movement, saying that all lives matter. Of course all lives matter, but the lives of people of color are the lives who are being systematically excluded and marginalized. It's people of color who end up in prison, dead, or deported. So how do I talk about the long haul in light of the events of the week and the feelings I am carrying with me? I guess it's because I have to. As a community, we need to feel our anger and sadness for what happened to George Floyd, hold it close, and then respond to it courageously in a way that demonstrates our unwillingness to tolerate racial injustice and brutality in any form, not just now when our anger and sadness are fresh, but in 3 months when racist acts are not at the forefront, but in the background, insidious and slightly under the radar. Most of us probably have heard the following quote from Martin Luther King. "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. You may also know that King took the quote from a sermon delivered by Unitarian and abolitionist minister Theodore Parker in 1853. Parker presents the quote differently, saying, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways, and I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience, and from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice." For obvious reasons, King modified the quote for rhetorical effect. But looking at the original is important. Reading it, we realize that the work of justice-making means we are in it for the long haul, even when we despair at the right now. The original quote also seems to help us realize that the outcome of justice is somewhat in doubt. If there is to be justice in the future, we need to speak up, vote, protect the right to vote, and maybe, most importantly, we need to care for and love all those we encounter. Only then can we ensure that the arc will, in fact, bend towards justice.
Today's story is a Southwest twist on the fable of The Tortoise and the Hare. The Tortoise and the Jackrabbit by Susan Lowell, illustrated by Jim Harris. One fine day, the desert was full of springtime magic. Seeds sprouted, eggs hatched, cactus buds bloomed. "Ah," said Tortoise, coming out of the burrow, "I feel good. I feel fast." Jackrabbit turned one of his huge ears in her direction. "Silly Tortoise," he laughed. "You drag that heavy shell wherever you go. As for me, I'm free, free, free." Zig! Jackrabbit leapt left. Zag! Jackrabbit sprang right. "I'm the fastest runner in the desert," he bragged. Tortoise looked patiently at him with her old eyes. "Let's race," she said. Now the other desert animals gathered around. "I'm sure to win," said Jackrabbit. "Prove it," said Tortoise. So they agreed to race. "I'll mark the course," squawked Roadrunner, and off he ran. Over the rocky hill, across the dusty flat place, under the mesquite trees to the water hole. Tortoise and Jackrabbit took their places side by side. "I'll watch from above," called Buzzard, high in the sky, while Eagle floated silent as a cloud. Eyeing Jackrabbit hungrily, Coyote volunteered to start the race. 1, 2, 3, oh! Jackrabbit bolted away. "Long, low leap, ho," he sang, and over the rocky hill he soared in less than no time. Tortoise moved her scaly toes up the slope. Scritch, scratch, lump, thump, she went. Scorpion peeked out from behind a big rock. Tortoise inched past a blooming prickly pear cactus as she trudged around the giant saguaro. High up its trunk, inside a dark hole, Elf Owl opened one sleepy eye. Tortoise rustled through the desert dandelions and golden poppies, purple sand verbena and creamy butterfly lilies. Taking a moment to stop and smell the flowers, she heard the ants scatter. "Don't step on us." "I won't," sighed Tortoise in her dry little voice as she lumped and bumped along. Meanwhile, Jackrabbit came to a dusty flat place. "Long, low, leap, ho," he said, and skipped across. By now he'd left Tortoise far behind. Under the mesquite trees, he saw a patch of tender, sweet, delicious grass, and he stopped to nibble it. By the time he had eaten his fill, he felt so drowsy that he lay in the shade and fell fast asleep. The Tortoise plodded down the hill. "Whew," she said, and continued slow and steady on her way. She passed Jackrabbit, still snoozing under the mesquite tree. Suddenly he woke up. He saw all the other animals gathered at the water hole. The quails had even brought their children, like little brown eggs on legs, and Tortoise had almost reached the finish line. Jackrabbit flew past light-footed deer, somersaulted over stinky skunk, and left Gila Monster in the dust, and never even noticed shy kangaroo rat. He hightailed it faster than ever. He crashed right into Sly Coyote and ski-daddled. But long, low, leap, oh no! Tortoise scratched across the line first. The desert animals cheered. "Thank you, my friends," said Tortoise. Javelina handed the winner a beautiful spring bouquet. And slowly, happily, Tortoise ate it. Typically, we think of the moral of this story as slow and steady win the race. And that is typically true, especially in the case of a marathon, not a sprint. But life isn't often a marathon or a sprint. Sometimes it's somewhere in between with lots of turns and twists in it. So maybe the moral is actually a little deeper than that. Maybe the moral is learn from failure. I mean, does one failure make you a horrible person or horrible at something? No, not at all. But do you think that the hare learned from the mistake that he made in underestimating the tortoise? You bet he did. If they were to race again, I doubt he would make that same mistake. Or maybe, just maybe, the hare and the tortoise could become friends and use their strengths to make things better. Who knows?
We are in different places, but we are still together, and we gather in a virtual way as we continue to create a place of communal caring and connection. We are enriched by the presence of each other and are drawn closer to the heart of love in this time of service and reflection. In this time together, we ask that our minds be open, our hearts welcoming, our arms embracing. We honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Joe Payne, serving as our caring coordinator for the last week, arranging care for our members and friends in need. Kay Eberman will take over tomorrow for the next week, and we thank her for that. As we continue through this time of staying at home, many of us may need additional care, whether it be pastoral care, grocery delivery, or an errand run, and we encourage you to reach out to Reverend Luke or myself with that request. We thank all of you who have offered to assist our members with this help, and we send gratitude to you all for serving our congregation during this time. This morning's flowers are shared by Paula Horner and Peter Edel in celebration of their 40th anniversary, which was last Sunday. We wish them many more years of happiness. In this community, we make time each week to share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because each person here has value. Each person's experience matters. We lift up those whose lives are touched by sadness, by illness, by worry, or by loneliness. We revel in those who are celebrating joys in their lives. May their happiness lift us all. May all of us find comfort, hope, joy, and healing strength in this community. Sadly, we share the news that Catherine Logan's sister, Pat Ashenault, died early Wednesday morning at the age of 71 in Center Conway, New Hampshire. While she did not die of COVID-19, she postponed seeking treatment because of the virus for an illness that should not have been fatal. Catherine shares that Pat was a wonderfully kind person, unbelievably funny, and a fierce advocate for those in need. We hold Catherine, Greg, and the entire family in our hearts at this time of grief. Please hold Allie Bishop tight in your heart. Allie had a tricycle accident on Monday and flew off the bike at a fairly high rate of speed, landing on her face, resulting in breaking out her front teeth and fracturing some others. She had surgery on Tuesday to repair the damage to the mouth and thankfully did not have any facial fractures. She's pretty bruised, scraped up, and sore, but as Gail said, she is a lucky girl. She is a lucky girl and so very strong. We send love and healing thoughts to Allie as she recovers. We continue to lift up Paulette Demers through her healing journey. Paulette was admitted to St. Mary's 2 weeks ago with several medical concerns. She underwent bypass surgery, which went very well, and will be returning home soon for a few weeks to heal. In the near future, she will return back to the hospital for a kidney surgery. She is grateful for the care and love from the congregation, and we continue to send her uplifting thoughts as she recovers. Now more than ever, we need to reach out to all in our community to let them know that we are still here and holding them. We encourage you all to send cards and make calls to those that you love, opening the doors of communication and connection. May the faith in the spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
I invite you to find your breath, center down. Breathe deep the breath of life. And remember how precious that is right now. How heart-wrenching it is when that is taken away. Find your breath and your center. Feel below you the earth and its ancient turning. Feel above you the stars and their ancient light. And here you are held between alive, awake. What a gift. Know here that you are named and you are known as beloved, as sacred. I invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Spirit of life and source of love, God of 1,000 names and beyond all naming, there are no words to hold the grief of the weak, a grief piled up on griefs of years and decades and centuries. Such old patterns of excessive police force and the dehumanization of black and brown people. There are no words when the ability to speak and breathe itself are taken away. There are no words when the grief knocks the air right out of you. There are no words to fix it, no words to mend it, only to sit with that grief, to rise to the occasion of what justice calls of us now. Solidarity, compassion, attention, as it always calls to us. Grief and outrage and rage and action. To take the breath we still have and to use it in whatever way we can. This day we are holding heavy hearts in our world and in our church community. We're holding in our heart this day our office administrator, Erica Fetterman, and her family. Her son, Logan, died unexpectedly Monday night. We are heartbroken with them, and we send them and hold them in so much love and light. And we hold all those who are suffering now in mind, in body, or spirit. I invite you to bring the names you are holding in your own heart, in joy or in sorrow, celebration or concern, and to speak their names silently or aloud now in this time. For all those names and for many others, may we all be held in love and in grace. These words of meditation and prayer come from the Reverend Yolanda Pierce, a litany for those not ready for healing. It's a litany that I've read far too often and keeps being needed to be read. I read it in honor and memory of George Floyd. Let us not rush to the language of healing before understanding the fullness of the injury, the depth of the wound. Let us not rush to offer a Band-Aid when the gaping wound requires surgery and complete reconstruction. Let us not speak of reconciliation without speaking of reparations and restoration. Let us not rush past the loss of this mother's child, this father's child, someone's beloved son. Let us not value property over people. Let us not protect material objects while human lives hang in the balance. Let us not value a false peace over a righteous justice. Let us not be afraid to sit with the ugliness, the messiness, the pain that is life in community together. Let us weep at our criminal justice system. Let us be silent when we don't know what to say. Let us be humble and listen to the pain and the rage and the grief pouring from the lips of our neighbors and friends. Let us listen to the shattering glass, and let us smell the purifying fires, for it is the language of the unheard. May we all be instruments of justice, of love, of peace. Amen.
Let us pause in life's pleasures and count her many tears, while we all share sorrow with the poor. There's a song that will linger forever in our ear. Oh, hard time, come again no more.
The first reading is Turning of the Year by Judy Ray. We never know if the turn is into the home stretch. We call it that, a stretch of place and time with vision of straining, racing. We acknowledge each turn with cheers, though we don't know how many laps remain. But we can hope the course leads on far and clear, while the horses have strength and balance in their lean legs, fine-tuned muscles, desire for the length of the run. Some may find the year smooth, others stumble at obstacles along the way. We never know if the finish line will be reached after faltering, slowing, or in mid-stride, leaping forward. The second reading is Marathon by Nick Flynn. Petals on a river, a tree in blossom. One pink bud, unopened, falls, and is carried downstream and out to sea. From above, the other petals seem to carry it. Closer. This is our map. These are footprints. We grew up drinking this water. At the start, there was doubt. We lit a torch. No one believed we would make it. Closer. The legs, the heart, the lungs. It's too soon to say we were lucky. It's too soon to say anything. Until the cloud is pulled back from the sky, until the ringing is pulled back from the bells. Look. Everyone we've ever known runs into without thinking, not away, but into the cloud where we are, waiting.
The road was full of switchbacks, these tight switchbacks along a cliff, this little car only going 20, maybe 15 miles an hour or so, but it still felt quite risky. It was a long way and, of course, beautiful along the waters on the seaside road. A little motion sick, sure, but worth it. And then we got to what was supposed to be the end of the switchbacks and the long, easy, straight road back, which, of course, was closed and under construction. We had to turn around to find enough equilibrium for a few moments to return the many miles back along the beautiful and dangerous and gut-wrenching road home. The beautiful, dangerous, gut-wrenching path. It often seems that's the only way it goes in this world. We travel paths that are filled with all of those things, intertwined, tangled together, piled almost right on top of each other like the tightest switchbacks you've ever seen. One moment, one direction, the next, another direction, unsure of where you are on this path, trying to take in whatever beauty you can find, trying to stay alive. Just trying to keep to the path and hope and trust that it's leading in a good direction. We never know if the turn is into the home stretch, writes the poet. We call it that, a stretch of place and time, they write. We acknowledge each turn with cheers, though we don't know how many laps remain. But we can hope the course leads on far and clear. Some may find the year smooth, they write. Others stumble at obstacles along the way. We never know if the finish line will be reached after faltering, slowing, or in mid-stride, leaping forward. I remember back in school in the presidential fitness test, which I never really understood why the president was so interested in my fitness and how it always made me feel quite inadequate, having to run the mile, the dreaded mile, which to me seemed like a mighty long way to run. Just going around and around that little track, either 8 times or 4 times, depending on which field you were in. The paths that I hated most growing up were those. They were the ones that just kept going around the same way, never changing, and maybe most importantly, I hated being timed with a stopwatch. While I know that there are those among us who find joy and exhilaration in that type of running, and I confess there is something I love about stability and consistency, familiarity, and that can still be true. I just preferred that in church more than around a track. But it's true to me, at least, that the paths I love the best were the winding ones, or the hikes, or the trails, or at least the ones that were free of time frames and stopwatches, even if it was around the same little lake multiple times. Even though they were maybe a little more risky or uncertain, the ground uneven, or sometimes the path quite unknown, but I trusted the way and I trusted those around me. To mind the gap, a phrase maybe you know from England, they put that in the underground, their subway system, between the train and the platform. Mind the gap. It's to pay attention to the path right here, right now, right in front of you, to avoid injury to yourself or others, to attend that place, that moment, that spot with care. But let's be clear, the paths in this world, this life, they are not just laps around and around a certain track. They're not clear and bright and open as they should be most of the time. We've got a lot of gaps on our path toward justice and love, whatever that finish line could even look like. Places where people get hurt, where we don't attend to what we need to attend to, where we focus too far ahead or try to rush ahead and fix things that cannot easily be fixed. We've got barriers and we've got roadblocks all over the place, and it seems the more we try to remove them, the more they're put back up, more overtly, more resistant, more cruel, as if the powers and principalities, as the old scripture says, the ways of empire and patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, militarism, and power-hungry excessive force of those who are called to protect and serve. Protect and serve who? Too often that question seems to have pretty misunderstood answers. It seems that these old ways of racism and subjugation of humanity and the valuing of property over people just keep building up more resistance to the social medicine of justice. This virus, this disease, this pandemic, medical and social, coronavirus and violent racism, have some similar qualities. They are cruel, they are unrelenting, they are powerful. They block the paths of health and well-being, and they can be deadly. One colleague wrote this week. She said, just thinking about my experience of this virus these last 3 months and how it's everywhere out there, and maybe it will let me pass unharmed, or maybe it will mess me up a little or a lot. Maybe it will mess me up and cause a little long-lasting damage. Maybe it could kill me. And I have no idea which it will be, and so I'm constantly on guard, and it's exhausting and terrifying. And no matter how the virus visits my body, it's already terrorized me, stolen my economic stability, impacted my mental health and that of my children. So she writes, wait, did I say the virus toward me for 3 months? I meant whiteness toward black folks for over 300 years. It's not a surprise. Why would it be that Minneapolis is in turmoil this week, that old patterns of people rising up is shut down by unrelenting and unrepenting power, and yet here we are, not sure where the path leads next, not sure how the arc can keep bending toward justice when it feels so often like it's breaking. Of course, nobody wants a city that is turned into what feels like a war zone, and yet here we are. And we can be dismayed and scared, and we can still understand the point and place where rage comes from, and how it struggles to find ways to be expressed and paid attention to. As one activist posted, you cannot commodify every aspect of living and then not understand looting as a legitimate form of protest. Looting is the ultimate strike against a system that deems mass-produced objects to be far more precious than life itself. It is humanity demanding to be recognized. Or as the Reverend Dr. King said, a riot is the language of the unheard. So I wonder, are we listening? Are we paying attention? And how are we using the breath that we still have to act, to vote, to sing, to find the beauty that is worth fighting for, worth working for on this tangled path of a world, this tangled mess of a soul, filled with this back and forth, this switchbacked soul between beauty and brokenness, between grief and gratitude, each day, each moment, each breath, wondering, how are we holding it together? Heaven knows where we are going. Heaven knows how we will get there, says the hymn. But when you're on the path you're on, there's really no other choice than to keep going somehow. To learn from your stumbles, to care for those around you, to begin to understand as much of the terrain and the lay of the land as you can, to pay attention to not only where you are going, but where you have been. At the start there was doubt, writes the poet. We lit a torch. No one believed we could make it. It's too soon to say we were lucky. It's too soon to say anything until the cloud is pulled back from the sky, until the ringing is pulled back from the bells. Let us see new ways, sang Jane today. If there is to be justice, we have to be part of its making, proclaimed Paul today. The bells keep ringing. The bells of justice and injustice keep ringing. And the path keeps unfolding before us, this beautiful, dangerous, soul-wrenching road of justice and love where there are no easy answers. And the question is, how will we travel it? What songs will we carry in our hearts if we can't sing them together right now to give us the strength we need to keep on going, whatever that means for us, to let others lead when we need a respite, to offer whatever gifts, whatever support, whatever solidarity we can? How will we care for our own soul to not be depleted? How will we care for each other? Through spiritual practice, through acts of kindness, through connection with loved ones or friends, so that we can take the gift of breath that we still have and keep breathing out love and justice and love and love and love again until that is the air we can all breathe. Amen. I invite you to find your breath, find your center. Open your hands toward the heavens or place them over your heart and take a deep breath, precious breath. Know that whatever paths we are on, as individuals and communities, we must find the practices, the moments, the ways to take in beauty, to restore our strength, and find ways to live in solidarity and compassion for a more just world. There are 1,000 ways to build that world. We need your gifts. We need everyone's breath, like in the old song. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know within. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Amen.